last section before we get to your Q&As, your fabulous questions, is I want to obviously talk about Kim Won-ho and Seo Seung Jae, because yet again, for the 10th time this year, they were able to win a tournament together. They were to win the Kumamoto Masters. That actually equals, I didn't know this, but it equals a 37-year-old record held by the Chinese men's doubles pair of Yongbo and Tian, Bingyi, who in 1988 also won 10 titles. Now, I know most people do think of Momota, Kento Momota in, was it 2019, won 10 titles a year, and that's seen as the most titles won by anyone, any pair or player. But actually, I said Yongbo and Tian Bingyi were able to do this in 1988. Although, technically, do we count one of those titles was an Olympic test event held in Korea in the 1988 Olympics. It wasn't a full tournament. I know a number of good pairs were playing. It's not like they were the only good pair playing, but it wasn't a full event. Do we count that or not? It doesn't really matter. It's technically counted under BWF, I guess. So, Kim and Ho and Seo Seung Jae have matched that record. And actually, Seo Seung Jae actually has beaten it because he also won a tournament. I think it was the Thailand Masters or one of the Thailand tournaments with Jin Yong earlier this year. So Seo Seung Jae has won 11 tournaments this year. That is a record. But as a pair, Kim Won Ho and Seo Seung Jae have a chance, obviously, as a pair to win 11 tournaments because obviously they're going to go to the World Tour Finals. And obviously they've qualified for that, obviously. And so can they make it 11 titles as a pair? That would obviously put them ahead of Yongbo and Tian Bingyi and Kento Momota. And if Seo Seung Jae does that and wins 12 tournaments in a year, that's absolutely outrageous. And another thing they could do is they could do what the Daddies did in 2019. I think they were the first pair to do this, where they won all three majors in the same year: the All England, the World Championships, and the World Tour Finals. So can Kim Won-ho and Seo Seung Jae do that? It's going to be difficult to see any pair that can beat them. But, and this is what I want to talk about in this section a little bit more, is I think the final of these Kumamoto Masters gave us a little bit more of an indication as to the style. It kind of confirmed to me the way that a pair can play that can upset, can beat Kim Won-ho and Seo Seung Jae. Now, before I get into that, I want to preface it by saying that this isn't going to be the only style that can beat them. Obviously, there's many factors that go into a pair winning or losing. If Kim Won-ho and Seo Seung Jae have a particularly bad day, or a pair that plays with whatever style has a brilliant day, they can beat them. No pair, no player is unbeatable. We've seen that. Things can happen. But I think the main style that definitely disrupts the Koreans was shown a little bit by the Japanese pair of Midorikawa and Yamashita. Quite a surprise finalist. Those two players, I think they're the Japanese national champions. I think they won it at the end of last year. They are obviously a fantastic doubles pair, but they're obviously more known for their mixed doubles exploits. But they got to the final here playing some absolutely brilliant badminton. And the style that they use, obviously being Japanese, they're very quick and nimble around each other. I think Midorikawa has some absolutely sublime racket skills and ability to play absolutely everything. It's what makes him such a good mixed doubles player, even though he is one of the smallest players on the world tour when it comes to the mixed doubles discipline. But the way they played, because the Japanese won the opening game and then they lost the next two. In that opening game, the speed and pace that the Japanese pair played at was through the roof. And not only that, they were varying their shots, lots of different attacks, stop drops, slices, smashes, cross courts, all sorts of variation. You can't be too direct against the Korean pair because their defense is absolutely ridiculous. Even against this Japanese pair, even when they were throwing the kitchen sink at them and playing insanely fast and all this variety, Kim Won-ho and Seo Seung Jae was still able to defend it quite quite comfortably, but they were still able to get a lot of shuttles back. But that style, that variety we saw when Kim Won-ho and Seo Seung Jae lost at Denmark Open to the Malaysian pair, or Tan Wee Kong and Azrin, they played with that style. On my Beckman's breakdown, I spoke about the reason for that. We've seen Alfie and Fikri defeat Kim Won-ho and Seo Seung Jae using a similar style. Lots of variety, lots of different angles, lots of fast rotation, just to unsettle, completely throw the rhythm of the Korean pair. But obviously the thing that Midorikawa and Yamashita do lack is a little bit of firepower. And I think eventually the Koreans were still able to, like I said, to defend quite well, and they were still able to get enough shuttles back that it definitely affected the Japanese fitness. The speed, they weren't able to maintain it for more than that opening game. It was ridiculous speed in the first game, but I think the Koreans were like, well, okay, see, I'm sure, I can't remember if it's, I don't know if it was Park Ji-won behind the court. I can't quite remember right now, but I'm sure Park Ji-won went and went, I don't think this Japanese pair are going to be able to maintain this. So just stick with what you're doing, keep defending, keep staying solid, and once their pace slightly drops, you're going to get opportunities. And that's exactly what happened. The next two games, the Japanese pair didn't play badly. They were just not able to move around as quickly, get into the same positions as they were in the first. And like that, also, I think the Koreans kind of figured out what they had to do and kind of got used to playing the Japanese players. And once they found their rhythm, they are such. That's why they're winning all these tournaments. Is not only are they very solid, they're both equally good from the front and the back. Good defense, good attack. Every single department covered, but they're also very astute as to what's happening. They can change their tactics. How many times I've spoken about the pairs that have beaten them, but we've also seen matches where the same pairs or other pairs have won the opening game against the Koreans, and almost it's looked a bit like, oh God, the Koreans are off here, they're going to lose, and then they're able to turn it around. They're able to either kind of just change something or just have belief in their game or just they're just getting used to the pair that's playing them and then they're able to find out counters. And that's exactly what they did again here. That is another mark of a champion pair. So yeah, I wanted to kind of use this section to say that I felt the Japanese did again show us the kind of style, the kind of blueprint to how you can defeat the Korean pair, but you have to be able to play the way they did. I mean, we saw this again with Alfie and Fikri in what I can't remember, was it the French final? Where the first game they were able to do it, and then the next two games they weren't even in it. Like the Koreans were just that solid, and they were able to. It's hard to maintain it because not only do you have to be very fit to play that fast, you have to be you have to play that lots of variety, which doesn't tend to lend itself to consistency. It's very easy to make mistakes, but you have to be consistent with it. It's a really hard style to play, but really right now it's the only style I can see that's going to beat them. Bar, like I said, Kim Won Ho and Seo Jae having a bad day. One of them or both of them just not quite there that day, and their opponent's playing brilliantly. So yeah, looking ahead to the World Tour Finals, it's going to be really hard to see any pair that's going to be able to beat them. I don't know who's qualified. I can't actually remember. I'm not sure if Alfie and Fikri can. Obviously, they're a pair that could beat them. They haven't been playing consistently with badminton, but they've definitely got the ability to play the style I talked about, or at least blend it with a power fast style, and that's Liang Wei Kang and Wang Chan. Because Wang Chan can play the crazy stuff, and obviously Liang Wei Kang's got the firepower. We've got like Aaron Chan and So Yik. They've beaten Kim Won Ho and Seo Seung Jae. So like I said, there are pairs that can beat, but it's very, very difficult, and it's hard to see the Korean pair not finishing the year with 11 titles, not finishing the year by replicating what Danny did in 2019, and not setting the record for themselves with 11 titles, and Seo Seung Jae going on to 12. So I'd love to, yeah, I think that's enough. Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you think actually that a pair can do. What do you think the blueprint is to defeating Kim Won Ho and Seo Seung Jae? I've kind of laid out my thoughts there. You can go into more detail. I'm more than happy to engage in those comments because it's a really interesting topic. I do think, like I'll repeat myself one more time, the Dorikawa and Yamashita did show that they are capable. That they showed kind of a bit of the blueprint, but they also showed that it's hard to do it consistently and to do it over the course of a full game. You can do it for one game, but can you do it for two, if not three? That is the question, and that is what makes the Koreans so hard to beat. So let's move on to your Q&A. I picked three really cool questions. So let's start with that one about Gregoria Mariska Tunjung.